If you feel like you're doing everything you can with your money and there's still nothing left to save at the end of the month, I want you to hear this. You don't have to have a lot of money to start an emergency fund. You just have to stop believing that an emergency fund only counts if you're putting hundreds of dollars into it. Because that belief kept me from saving before. I used to think, what's the point of putting away $5 or $10? It didn't seem like enough to make a difference. But here's what I eventually learned. $5 saved is worth a whole lot more than $5 you don't have when something goes wrong. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck, that little bit of money can be the difference between an inconvenience and a full-blown crisis. So if you're starting with almost nothing, this video is for you. I'm going to show you how I build an emergency fund from the ground up if money is really, really tight. And we're going to start much smaller than you probably think. Stop waiting until you can afford to save. And one of the biggest mistakes people make with saving money is waiting for the magical time when there's finally enough left over. You know, you pay the rent, you pay the electric bill, you buy your groceries, you fill the gas tank of your car, and, you know, you handle kids' expenses if you have kids, and you pay your insurance, and then something else comes up. Suddenly you're looking at your bank account thinking, well, maybe next month. So the problem is that the next month usually looks a lot like this month. Then another month goes by, and another, and that's how people can work for years and still have no emergency savings. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care about their future, but sometimes there simply isn't much margin. So instead of asking, how much can I save? I want you to start asking, what is the smallest amount I can save consistently? That's a completely different question. And it's one that almost anybody can answer. Maybe it's $5, maybe it's $10, maybe it's $2 every payday. It doesn't sound impressive, but we're not trying to impress anybody. We're just trying to build a safety net for emergencies. So your first goal is not $1,000, okay? I know you've probably heard that your first emergency fund should be $500 or $1,000. Some say, and then you work toward 3 months of expenses, 6 months of expenses. And eventually, yes, I'd love for you to have that much or more. But if you're starting with $23 in your checking account and $47 in your savings account, telling yourself that you need $1,000 can feel so overwhelming that you don't even start. So forget the $1,000 for a minute. Your first goal is $100. That's it. $100. Because $100 sitting somewhere safe can handle a surprising number of small emergencies. A prescription, you know, when you're sick. Maybe a tire repair if you get a hole. A copay for a doctor's visit that was unexpected. A tank of gas when payday is still several days away. You know, an unexpected school expense, a broken phone charger, a small plumbing problem. Like, it won't solve every emergency, but it can keep a small emergency from becoming a credit card balance. And that's the real purpose of an emergency fund. It's not about becoming rich. It's about creating a little space between you and the next thing that goes wrong, because things are always going to go wrong. Start with an amount that feels kind of ridiculous, honestly. Here's where I want you to be honest with yourself. Don't pick an amount because it sounds good, right? Don't pick an amount that your friend is doing, okay? Pick an amount you can actually repeat. If you can save $25 every payday without having to put groceries back at the checkout, that's great. But if $25 is going to cause you to overdraft 3 days later, then that's not a good savings plan. That's just moving the problem around. Maybe your number is $10. Maybe it's $5. Maybe it's $1. And if you're thinking, seriously, $1? Yeah, seriously, $1. Because we're building two things at the same time. Yes, you're building the money, the emergency fund, but you're also building a habit. And the habit is what matters. I mean, that matters. Once you've proven to yourself that you can consistently put something aside, increasing the amount becomes much easier. Now try the save it before you see it method. If you're paid every week, you could try this. Every payday, immediately move a small amount into your emergency fund. $1, $2, $5, whatever you can afford. Don't wait until Sunday night to see what's left. Because if you wait until the end of the pay period, chances are you've already found somewhere for that money to go. And honestly, that's normal. Money has a way of disappearing when it's sitting in the same account as everything else. So if you can, move your emergency money somewhere separate. Doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to earn a lot of interest. Doesn't have to be an investment account or CDs or anything. Just at this stage, the most important thing is that it's safe, accessible, and separate from your everyday spending money. So just your basic savings account is fine. You want to make it just inconvenient enough that you don't casually spend it or accidentally spend it. So then you want to start looking for found money. Once you've established that tiny automatic amount, start looking for money that doesn't have to come out of your regular paycheck or your regular budget. This is where things can get really interesting. Maybe you get a $20 rebate. Put that in your emergency fund. Maybe you sell something you don't use anymore. Put some or all of it in there. Maybe you save $8 on groceries because something was on sale. Maybe you had some really good coupons. You don't necessarily have to put the entire amount away. Maybe that $8, you put 3 of it into your savings. Maybe you get a birthday gift of $50. You could put 10 into your emergency fund. Maybe you get a tax refund. Don't automatically think of it as spending money. Consider using part of it to buy yourself something you don't normally have. Financial breathing room. And that's something I wish more people understood. Saving money doesn't always mean that you have to suffer. Sometimes saving money is how you give yourself peace. So use the small win method. It's another trick I really like. Don't just celebrate the big milestones. Celebrate the little ones. $25, then $50, then $100, and maybe then $250. Because when you're starting from nothing, every milestone represents something. They're important. At $25, you've proven that you can start. At $50, you've proven that you can continue and be consistent. At $100, you've created your first little layer of protection for the little small emergencies. At $250, you're starting to have some real breathing room that you can cover some, worse emergencies. And when you reach $500, that's when you can look back and realize I actually built this. Nobody else put that money there. I did it. Dollar by dollar, payday by payday. And that feeling is important because it changes how you see yourself. You're no longer somebody who wishes they could save. You're somebody who saves, who is saving. Now, don't raid your emergency fund for non-emergencies. This is a big one. And it's hard. Because once you see money sitting there, it's tempting to think, well, technically I have $300. No, you don't. You have $300 for emergencies and emergencies only. There's a difference between I have $300 and I have $300 for emergencies. A sale at your favorite store isn't an emergency. A weekend trip isn't an emergency. Christmas isn't an emergency. You can have separate savings for that. A restaurant craving isn't an emergency. And I say that because I've learned the hard way that if you don't give your savings a job, everything starts looking like its job. So eventually you may want separate savings categories. And a lot of banks will let you do this. Emergency fund, car repairs, Christmas, home expenses, vacation, whatever applies to your life, whatever you need to save money for. But when you're just starting, don't overwhelm yourself with 10 different savings accounts. Start with one, emergency money. Give that money one job. Protect future you from emergencies. Now, what if you have debt? And this is where people get confused. They hear you should save an emergency fund, but then they hear you should pay off your debt. Both are true. And they wonder which one they're supposed to do first. Now, my answer is don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. If you have absolutely nothing saved, I would want at least a small starter emergency fund before throwing every extra dollar at debt. Because life doesn't stop just because you're paying off a credit card. Believe me, I've been here. I'm still here. I have a couple of credit cards I'm paying off right now. Your car can still break down. Your water heater can still quit. Your child can still need something. Your hours at work can still get cut. I mean, you just never know. And if you have no savings at all, the emergency usually goes right back onto the credit card. So that's how you end up taking one step forward and 2 steps backward, which we don't want to do. So build a small cushion. Then work aggressively on your debt. As your debt payments disappear, redirect some of that money towards your emergency fund. That's when things can really start to change. Now, look for one expense you can redirect. Now, I don't want you to go through your entire life cutting every little joy out of your budget. Nobody wants to live that way. It's miserable. And it's usually not sustainable. So instead, look for one thing. Maybe it's one subscription that you don't use very much. Maybe it's eating out one less time a month. Maybe it's switching one expensive convenience product for a cheaper version. Maybe you can save $10 on your phone bill. I know a lot of bills will give you breaks if you do like paperless billing. So maybe you can reduce your grocery spending by $20. Maybe you don't need to completely overhaul your life. You just need to find $10. Then send that $10 towards your future. Because if you can find $10 every month, that's $120 a year. Find $25, that's $300. If you combine that with the tiny amount you're already saving from every paycheck, Suddenly you're not talking about a few dollars anymore. You're building momentum. And please don't compare your savings to somebody else's. This one really matters. You may see somebody online talking about their $20,000 emergency fund. And that's great for them. But you don't know their income. You don't know their expenses. And you don't know whether they have family helping them or maybe they were left an inheritance. You don't know how long they've been saving either. They could have been saving that for 10 years. You don't know their circumstances. And most importantly, their starting line isn't your starting line. If you can only save $5 right now, save $5. If somebody else can save $500, well, good for them. But you're not competing. It's not a competition. You're building security for your own household. And sometimes financial progress looks really, really boring. Nobody applauds for you for transferring $10 into your savings account. Nobody sees it. Nobody gives you a trophy. Nobody cares. But 6 months from now, when your car needs a repair and you don't have to panic because you have that money in your savings account, you will be glad that you did it. So once you've been saving your starter amount for a while, don't immediately decide you need to double it. Just test yourself. If you're saving $5 every payday, try 7. If you're saving 10, try 12. If you normally save $20, try $25. And here's a trick. Increase your savings when your income increases. If you get a raise at work, don't automatically increase your lifestyle by the same amount. Don't just start buying more expensive stuff. Don't spend more. If you start making an extra $50 a week, maybe $10 of that goes towards your emergency fund. If you pay off a monthly bill that's costing you $40, well, you've freed up $40 in your budget. Maybe redirect $20 of it into your savings. You don't have to send every extra dollar towards savings. Just make sure some of it goes with you. Because one of the easiest ways to stay broke is to let every increase in income disappear into an increase in spending. Now, eventually your emergency fund should grow with you. Your first goal might be $100, then $500, then maybe $1,000. And eventually you may want enough to cover several months of essential expenses. They say 3 to 6 months, just in case you lose your job or whatever. But don't let the size of the final goal discourage you from starting. Think of it like building a wall. You don't stand there looking at the finished wall thinking, I can't build that. You lay one brick, and then another, and then another, and that's what saving is. You're laying bricks. You're building a foundation, one brick at a time. $5 is a brick. $10 is a brick. $20 is a brick. A tax refund is a bigger brick. A side job is a brick. And that's a whole nother video. We could go into side jobs in the gig economy as a way to help with your savings. But skipping an unnecessary purchase is a brick. And one day you look around and realize you built something that can actually protect you, your wall. One last thing I want you to remember is if you're struggling financially right now, please don't turn that struggle into shame. There are seasons in life when money is plentiful, and there are seasons when every dollar has 3 jobs. I think most people go through these different seasons. There are seasons when you're raising children, and there are seasons when you're starting over. There are seasons when you're helping somebody else. Seasons when you're alone, seasons when you just simply have to survive. That doesn't mean that you will always be there. You don't have to fix your entire financial life this month, and you don't have to become a budgeting expert. You don't have to save thousands of dollars overnight. You just have to start creating a little bit of breathing room. So if all you can save this week is $5, save the $5. Don't tell yourself it doesn't count. It counts. It all counts. Because you're not just putting money into an account. You're teaching yourself that even when life is tight, you can still take one small step toward protecting your future. And that's the lesson I hope that you remember from this video. You don't build financial security with one big decision. You build it with 1,000 little decisions that nobody else sees. So start small, protect it, and keep going. And let that little emergency fund grow alongside you. And if you're building your life back one small step at a time, stick around. That's the kind of practical, real life stuff we're talking about here. Because sometimes the most important lessons aren't the ones that make us rich. They're the ones that help us sleep a little bit better at night.